Hi viewers, welcome to the Addiction Channel, where we share stories on addiction, what is addiction, and what can be done to curb addiction. Today, we have a profound guest, Dr. William Bill Sinkel. Doc, welcome to the session once again.
Good to be here.
When it comes to addiction, screening has to be done.
Right.
What do you imply when you talk about screening and which screening methods are being used?
So there's like a threefold process. Okay, first is what is called a screening, okay, to see whether you have a problem or you don't have a problem. Then if you find out you may have a problem, then you do an assessment. Well, actually, an addiction counselor does an assessment. Okay, that's a more in-depth to show the level of the severity. Okay, when we talk about, okay, the term alcoholism, that's not a medical term. What we use is alcohol use disorder or substance use disorder. That's the proper medical term. Then there is treatment, and then there is what we call recovery. So one of the tools for screening is called CAGE, C-A-G-E, okay? For those who are out there, if you answer, it's four simple questions. If you answer these questions, it shows you may have an alcohol problem. So the first one is C, is cut down. Have you ever felt that you needed to cut down on your drinking or your drugging? The second is annoyed. Has somebody talked to you about your drinking and did you get annoyed? You know, maybe your wife suggested, honey, don't you think you're drinking too much? Or maybe your boss said, you know, we're worried about your drinking, and then you get annoyed. The fourth one is guilty. Are you guilty about what happened the day, you know, what you did when you were drinking or drugging? Did you get into a fight with your wife, with your friends, you know, at work? Something that, or you woke up with somebody you didn't know you went to bed with. So did you feel guilty? And the last one is E, eye opener. Okay, it's kind of an American saying, did you need a drink in the morning? You couldn't hold your tea cup because your hands were shaking.
Kutoa lock.
Couture lock, exactly, exactly. So if you answer 2 yeses to those 4 questions, you may possibly have a alcohol problem. Even 1 is a danger. Or there's another simple screening tool. During the past month, did you have 5 drinks at one setting, at one time? That's also an indicator there may be some issue there. Okay, that's a screening tool. Then what you would do if you think you had a significant problem, then there are what they call assessment. These are longer tools to help you see the severity, you know, and the severity of the addiction. So do you need inpatient or you need outpatient treatment? And then there's what we call treatment, which could be either outpatient or inpatient. Then there is recovery, which takes a period of time, in fact, rest of your life, you know, okay?
Doc, can you, on a larger perspective, explain to us the importance of treatment centers when it comes to alcohol use disorders?
Yeah, so when I began here, you know, in the 90s, early 90s, we had 2 treatment centers at that, inpatient treatment centers at that time. Now we have between 100 and 200 treatment centers here, inpatient treatment centers here in Kenya, plus outpatient, a few outpatient treatment centers. So there's been a huge increase. Now, as I say, the challenge with these, mostly they're private. Okay, we have public, we have Mathare Valley has an addiction treatment center. We have at the coast, we have Coast General, I think it's Pwani, I keep forgetting. You know, so we have public treatment centers, but most treatment centers here in Kenya. But for some people, depending on the severity of their addiction, it really is important for them to go to an inpatient treatment center, you know, here in Kenya.
And because of lack of information, a lot of people tend to believe that it's not important for one to go for the 90 days program, whereas the psychiatrist or the addiction counselors highly recommended for him to go for that. Can you
Right.
explain to fellow Kenyans why is it important to go for the 90 days program in a treatment center?
For those who need it, yes, there are many that need the 90-day program. Not everybody.
Yeah.
Some people can do outpatient. But for those who need it, the reality is that most people have been drinking for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Okay? So this is 20 years of behavior, habitual behavior, that has been taking them in a negative direction. So you need, for many people, they need this 90 days to kind of move them, habitually, living without the alcohol or drugs. And, some of the things that they'll learn, okay, in the addiction treatment centers, you learn what is the addiction disease, okay? So you have an understanding what your disease is. Then they'll be giving individual and group counseling, okay? So they'll have an addiction counselor who will meet them on a one-to-one basis okay, everybody's addiction is different. It may be the same substances, but how they use the substances, why they use the substances, and the consequences is different. And so you work out with your counselor, your addiction counselor, what's going to be a plan. Okay, it's a plan to change your life, to change the habits of your life, your thinking and your habits. Uh, you know, so that's done both individually and it's done often in groups, okay? So that you learn from the other members within the group. You see, first of all, you're not the only one that has an alcohol or drug problem, okay? You're not alone. And then you also learn from them how to do it in a more positive way. But since this also is a disease of denial, you begin to see, oh, this guy's really in denial. Oh, it wasn't a severe problem, but didn't you get fired from your job? Didn't your wife leave you? Didn't you beat up your wife? So we break through that disease, and then after that period of 3 months, then they come up with a recovery plan. When you go back to your normal job, to your normal family, what do you need to put in place so that you can begin continuing in your recovery? And even if it's like 90 days, recovery takes 1 or 2 years to get a good foundation of living a life sober without relying on alcohol or drugs. Now, what we're also trying to bring into an awareness in this country that there is the counseling program, but there are medications that assist the person in their sobriety or in their addiction. Okay, like with the SAPTA program, we have 6,000 heroin addicts who inject. And I think it's about 8 years ago, we started introducing a drug called methadone. Okay, methadone is a drug that they have to go to a center. Okay, one's at Mathare Valley, one's at Ngara here in Nairobi. And so these heroin addicts, they go and they get methadone, which is this. It's an opiate, just like heroin is an opiate, but they don't get that same craving, and so that they get this medication daily at a methadone clinic. And the marvelous thing I've seen with the people who are on the methadone is that they're working it. They can go to work. They're reuniting with their families. They're dressing decently. They're not living in the dens. And what I've seen is they have hope. The problem with the methadone program is that we need to upscale it. The government, it's a government-run program, so we need it so much more. One of the other drugs we'd like to, it's actually here in Kenya. It's called naltrexone. Okay, naltrexone is a drug. Okay, it was first used and still used for heroin addicts to reduce the craving, but it can be used with the alcoholics. Now, the approach is a little different than recovery programs. It's a harm reduction program, okay? And so the pill that can be bought, okay, has to be ordered by a doctor, prescription, and it's about 11,000 for a 28-day supply. But the interesting thing is, you take it if you intend to drink, and we know that many people go through treatment, they end up relapsing. Okay, relapsing can be part of this disease. So So if you intend to drink, you take a pill, 50 milligram pill of naltrexone, 1 hour before you drink. And what happens over a period of few days, few weeks, and a couple of months, it reduces the craving. So, all right, let's just say that you had, you drink normally 6 bottles of beer a night, or 10. So, an hour before you're going to go out drinking, you take the pill, and you'll slowly you'll reduce the desire to drink, the drive to drink, and so this is a way. Some people may end up drinking maybe one drink a day. Now, that's okay. I'm not okay as a Catholic. I'm not against drinking if you can drink reasonably and soberly, so to speak. But these are the medications we can introduce to help both the counseling and to help the the other side. The okay, it's a biopsychosocial disease, biopsychosocial spiritual disease, and so this helps to balance the biological disease within us by using medications. And then then people get into recovery, which is learning how to live a life without depending on alcohol or drugs.
Powerful,
Mm.
powerful. And Doc, you've spoken about relapse.
Mm-hmm.
And you see, when parents take their children
Right.
to rehabilitation centers for the
Mm-hmm.
90 days program, or the work party sponsors their
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
colleagues to go to the rehabilitation
Mm-hmm.
centers for the 90 days program,
Right.
they have a lot of expectations that when
Right.
this person completes the 90 days program,
Mm-hmm.
he will never ever
Okay.
take alcohol or the drug of choice that made him to go, him or her,
Right.
to go there.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes as if relapse from the drugs, relapse to the drugs or the alcohol is a big problem to
Right.
those who sponsor this person to go to the 90 days program.
That's right.
Can you tell the general public about the relapse process and
Mm-hmm.
if it is possible for relapse to happen or not?
Yeah, I mean, relapse can be. It doesn't have to be, but relapse often is part of this disease. Okay. As I say, the 3 month program is not a magic, kind of cure. When they get back into the situation where they were coming out of and the stress of that situation, they can often go back to alcohol or drugs. The challenge from the family side is, hey, look, man, we shelled out a whole lot of money for you. This was a very expensive medical treatment, and we thought you're going to be cured. Well, when they see the guy relapse, they're angry, they're hurt, they feel like we've wasted this money. But the reality is, okay, this is a very important thing. If you're a diabetic, diabetics relapse. Okay, do you blame the diabetic? No. If you have high blood pressure, do you end up eating too much or use a lot of salt, or you end up getting, are you being blamed? So the relapse rate with diabetics or high blood pressure is the same as alcoholics and drug addicts. It's the same, but they don't get the blame that we get if we relapse. Like it was our personal decision to relapse. Now, when we say you go into treatment, you have to take responsibility for your own treatment. No family member, no wife, no worker can sit on your hand and say, "Look, don't drink."
Yeah, true.
It's got to come within here. But relapse happens. The important thing is that you learn from your mistakes, and then the next time, maybe you won't relapse. I've known some people, they've relapsed many times, but eventually they got sober. Okay? Eventually they got sober. But I say we have to use good treatment with medication, with family and work support to help these people get back to a normal, sober life.
Now, my challenge comes in here where we're talking about the family and
Mm-hmm.
work party support.
Right, right.
Because if in the moment this person relapses,
Mm-hmm.
the family feels that it has been let down,
Right.
the work party feels that it has been let down,
Mm-hmm.
and now they're not in a position even to give this person a chance to go for the program again. Why? They believe
Right.
the program is a waste of time. They believe that this person did not act accordingly so that he can maintain his sobriety.
Right.
My information that you should relate to the general public, can you explain to them about the relapse process,
Mm-hmm.
why it happens,
Right.
what causes this relapse, and what the work party and the family party can do in the
Mm-hmm.
event of relapse to their colleague?
Yeah, I think, okay, so there's a lot of education that we have to do,
Yeah.
both with the employers, that they understand what's happening in the addiction process and the relapse process and the recovery process. And we have to help the family to understand, okay, how to support the alcoholic or drug addict while they're in the early stages, particularly of recovery. Okay. Uh, Part of the problem, whether it's a wife that's been hurt so much or it's a family member, they have so much anger, you know, of what this guy or gal has done, that you know, they condemn more easily than they do help. And so we have to help them understand that relapse can be part of the process, you know, and it isn't that the person just wants to relapse. You know, it's that inner drive to drink and drug is saying to me, if I don't, I will die. Okay, it's like a survival issue. So it's a complicated. I wouldn't say it's easy. Would never say it's easy. It's a complicated process, both with the individual directly affected and with their family members and with their employers, that they can understand the whole disease and recovery process. These are our challenges, or as I say, my favorite word here, tungamoto, that we are, but it's faced everywhere. It isn't just here, but these are our challenges to help people understand and then help them to be supportive. And so, but the family themselves need a lot of healing, not just sometimes the family is physically sicker than the alcoholic or drug addict, sometimes physically because of the stress, high blood pressure and whatever. So our challenge today is, how do we help the employer, say whatever your profession might be, and to help the families so they can deal with the Now there are programs. Okay, there's the recovery program is AA. People can go in for free. It doesn't cost anything to go to an AA meeting. AA is meant for the alcoholic, or there's NA for the people who have a narcotic program problem. Then there is Al Anon. Al Anon, there are a few meetings of Al Anon. Al Anon is meant for the family members or anybody directly affected by somebody else's addiction. And so these are the different support groups, okay, that can help people go through addiction, and recovery with other people.
Now, when it comes to relapse again,
Mm-hmm.
is relapse an absence of recovery, or is relapse part of the program of recovery?
Uh, Relapse happens often, but not always.
Okay.
Okay, in my case, by the grace of God, I have never had a relapse, okay, in all my years. Uh, but often with people, it does happen. Now, that it happens shouldn't surprise people, but it should not be a point of condemnation. It should be a point of learning. What must I learn from this mistake? So that I don't have to repeat it the next time. So that's what I say about relapse. Uh, we used to say in AA, if you want to go out and see and you'll be beaten more properly. You want to have a relapse, go ahead. You're the one that's going to suffer, but it doesn't have to be that way. But if it is, learn from it. Okay, learn from your mistakes. Yeah,
So there's also life after the recovery, after the
absolutely,
treatment program.
absolutely.
You're parting shot to the public about life after
Hmm.
rehab and how they are going to support their relatives and work
Yeah,
colleagues
yeah.
after the treatment center.
I mean, I thank God I was an alcoholic. I really do. I mean, what I've learned from both being an alcoholic, the pain that it brought to me personally and to others, and being in recovery. Okay, my life is so much richer, both personally, by learning by recovery, and professionally. Okay, I think as you realize, I have a great passion both to help others who have the problem of addiction. And so it changed my life. My life is wholly different because of my alcoholism and my recovery. I have no regrets. I don't have regrets that I was an alcoholic. I have no regrets that it has pointed me in a direction in my life professionally to assist others, thousands, literally thousands of others here in Kenya and beyond, uh, to help them make a different life, both those directly affected and their family members.
With your wealth of information, and I understand people say are really going through a difficult time because of addiction of their
Mm-hmm.
loved ones and their colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
How can somebody reach you?
Yeah, so they can reach me through SAPTA. If they Google SAPTA, we have a couple websites. One easy way of getting hold of me is my email, okay? Sinkele, lowercase, Sinkele, Sinkele at Gmail. Okay, that's, or 0721 726 881. That is my personal phone number. So those are the two ways, Sinkele at Gmail or SAPTA. If you Google SAPTA, you'll get the websites.
Viewers, we've learned a lot from Dr. William Bill Sinkele about the addiction process. And it's a high time that we change our overview about addiction and support our fellows who are going through this rough time of addiction and get a positive aspect that there's life for the addict, there's life for the families who are suffering because of their loved ones in addiction, and indeed addiction is treatable. Thank you, Dr. William, for
Thank you
coming
very
for this
much.
session. Thank
Asante
you so
sana.
much.